The heat is on. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Charity disaster. Reputational disaster. Professional disaster. Financial disaster. It's all coming together.
At war over money. They need $10 million now.
Charles has made it very clear that he wants Harry back. You know, we saw it in Harry's book. Don't make my life a misery, but don't make my final years a misery, boys. Charles's dearest wish is to be reconciled with his son.
Of course, there are constant bust-ups, I guess is the point that I'm making. And of course, there is tension over Harry's desire to spend time in the United Kingdom, but Meghan knows she needs to come back too. She's going to have to turn back on her word, and that is for financial reasons.
They need $3 million just to survive each year, just to meet their minimum security needs. So I really think we can't frame this in any other way other than a pay for play, a desperate, grab for cash. And I think that just comes down to it, that they really need the bucks.
Tom Bower has spent years looking into this marriage, and not long ago, he summed up his opinion with one word that sparked plenty of discussion. According to Bower, as long as Harry remains married to Meghan, the possibility of the couple relocating back to Britain is simply untenable. Not difficult, not unlikely, just untenable. And behind that powerful word is a financial reality that helps explain why this situation continues to attract so much attention.
As far as people were concerned, we were living at a palace, and we were in a cottage.
We were living on
palace grounds.
He would just hit his head constantly in that place because he's so tall.
Bower has estimated that the lifestyle Harry and Meghan have created in California could cost between $3 and $6 million every year to maintain. That estimate sits right at the heart of this entire conversation. This is the picture several royal commentators and biographers have been describing, and it's worth keeping in mind as the story develops. By many accounts, Harry appears interested in rebuilding stronger connections with life in Britain.
It is very interesting, which I was surprised by, and comes up early in the Betrayal book, is when a very, very famous member of the British establishment, really a household name, is asked by the Queen to explain to Meghan before the wedding what life will be like. And that person goes to visit her every 3 or 4 weeks in Kensington Palace, and after the third and fourth visit tells the Queen that Meghan has absolutely no intention of staying in Britain after the wedding, and there's a lot of trouble ahead. Of course, it was too late to do anything, but they saw it long before that glorious day in June, and I'm afraid that that is her problem. She is very calculating and very ruthless and very self-promoting, but she's taken on more in the end than she can chew.
Bower describes someone who may feel frustrated with his current position, concerned about his influence in the UK, and facing a different reality in America than he may have expected. Meghan, meanwhile, is often portrayed as having little desire to return to Britain. One appears drawn toward London, while the other seems fully committed to Montecito. According to some longtime royal observers, the biggest challenge may not involve the palace, and it may not even involve King Charles. Instead, they suggest the most significant obstacle could be much closer to home. That's a major point, and it shouldn't be accepted based solely on one person's view. What makes this discussion so fascinating is that it doesn't stop with Tom Bower.
Harry and Meghan want to destroy. They might want to be there, but they want to destroy. That's why they're going ahead. That's why they're putting on smiley faces. That's why they're doing all sorts of things. But I don't believe in what they want to do at all. I think they're crooks and nasty people to try and win.
No one would ever believe it.
No one would ever believe it.
Other commentators have started asking very similar questions. Keep watching, because by the end of this story, you'll understand why some observers believe Bower's comments from years ago are receiving renewed attention today. First, let's talk about the finances, because nearly every part of this story seems to circle back to money. Harry is certainly not facing financial hardship, and it's important to acknowledge that from the beginning. When he turned 30 in 2014, reports indicated that Harry inherited around £10 million from his mother's estate. Then, on his 40th birthday in September 2024, reports suggested he received another substantial payment, said to be around £8 million, from a trust that had been established years earlier for royal descendants. That means Harry began his California chapter with considerable inherited wealth. But there's one detail that often gets overlooked.
And now Harry is suddenly woken up and gone, oh, actually, yeah, you've got to have this stuff called money. It's this folded paper that's in your trousers, and that's how you get stuff. And I didn't really know that until I left England and stopped being a member of the royal family. So Meghan's told me I need to get more of this folding paper, which has got Dad's face on it. And we could also get some of the American paper, which is green, and that's got like a big S on it with lines down the middle. Anyhow, Meghan said she wants more of this colourful paper, and that we're running out of the colourful folding paper that's in your trousers. Yeah.
No matter how large a fortune appears, expenses can add up quickly when major costs continue year after year. There is the Montecito property to maintain. There are security expenses following changes to previous arrangements. And when annual spending potentially reaches several $1 million, even significant resources can come under pressure over time. Then there are staff expenses and legal disputes, and unlike many royal stories, some of these figures have been discussed publicly. Court records showed that Harry's legal case involving a major newspaper publisher included approved budgets of roughly £4 million for each side.
He hasn't got a clue. It's a catastrophe. They need $10 million now. Because you know as well as I do, folks, that you've got to have a buffer. You cannot be down to your last dollar. And yes, there are some savings. There's a little bit of money from the books fair. He got 20 million for that. There is the inheritance from Diana and from the Queen Mother, who is the mother of the late Queen Elizabeth. He got millions when he turned 30.
Reports also indicated that an earlier settlement involving another newspaper publisher exceeded £10 million. These aren't figures pulled from random gossip or online speculation. These are numbers that have been discussed through legal proceedings and public records. That's why, when Tom Bower estimates that the Sussexes could need between $3 and $6 million per year to support their current lifestyle, he's not necessarily painting an exaggerated picture.
Harry keeps arguing that they need taxpayer-funded security, and you're sitting back looking at Meghan dripping in gold, posting pictures of her closet, posting pictures of her children, saying, are you not increasing the odds of somebody targeting you by putting your wealth and your children and your home on full display?
He's looking at the available information and asking the same question many people might ask around their own dinner table. At the end of the day, income has to stay ahead of expenses. If it doesn't, pressure can eventually build. One challenge with high-profile careers is that earnings don't always arrive on a steady schedule. Instead, there may be one major deal followed by a long wait for the next opportunity. Then comes the hope that another big agreement arrives before attention shifts elsewhere.
And that's what happens if you marry a guy who's not that bright and who has no discernible talent and whose only value are two things: inherited cash, which he didn't earn, and selling the family secrets. Well, both of those sources of income look like a busted flush, and the cost of their lives is extraordinary. You're looking at $3-4 million a year, easy. $3-4 million, potentially $5 million. The mortgage alone on their Montecito mansion is $500,000. And don't forget, interest rates are going up. So if they have to negotiate again, if they have to do a new deal, good luck.
The Netflix deal helped create an image of financial stability during the early years of their California chapter. But even major contracts have an endpoint, and future opportunities are never guaranteed. That's where things can start becoming more complicated. When a lifestyle carries costs in the millions every year, it's not easy to suddenly reduce spending overnight. The bills keep coming, the commitments remain in place, and someone has to keep everything moving. This is also where the financial story and the relationship story begin crossing paths in a fascinating way.
When they left the United Kingdom 6 years ago, this was the plan, a sort of failed deal with Netflix, everybody hating you and being a kind of laughingstock and being a social media influencer, basically. Like that, as I recall, was not the plan, right? The plan was this whole new model of service. They were going to show the Queen didn't have any idea about service. They were going to show her how it was done.
According to many commentators, Britain is not necessarily viewed as the place where Meghan's biggest professional opportunities would naturally develop. If that's true, it creates a difficult balancing act. The future Harry may prefer, and the future that potentially offers the strongest business opportunities, could exist on opposite sides of the Atlantic.
Sources say that the couple are so unhappy that it resulted in a massive bust-up over their plans this summer. I was the first reporter to reveal the strains in the marriage in Montecito. The mainstream media has been very slow to catch up, but Heat magazine has gone there this week with a front-page cover story revealing the specific argument was about Harry's demands for Meghan to return to the United Kingdom.
Keep that in mind because it becomes even more important as this story unfolds. Tom Bower has described the couple's position as an unfortunate crossroads, and that phrase has sparked plenty of discussion. His argument is actually quite specific. He points out that Harry remains a member of the royal family and still holds a place within the line of succession.
And this insider has said the marriage is strong. This is what they said. They love each other. This isn't about divorce or separation. It's about Meghan pushing Harry to adapt to a world where they can't rely on royal status or inherited wealth forever. Well, is Meghan deluded or what? Because Harry is never going to become commercially successful. Because beyond his royal meal ticket, there's nothing.
In Bower's view, Harry's sense of purpose was never mainly built around financial success. He grew up within an institution where public duty, responsibility, and service played a central role. Building wealth was never supposed to be the primary focus. Meghan, according to Bower's interpretation, approached life from a very different angle. He argues that her goals have long been connected to career growth, business ventures, and building a successful public profile.
Meghan flipped, and a normal argument turned into a showdown. Tensions are at an all-time high. Now, you'll remember Meghan returned from Geneva, and there was a big song and dance made about the couple's wedding anniversary. I think that was part of the Flood the Zone strategy, which was desperately designed to sort of say, nothing happened, it doesn't matter that only 10 people showed up. But at the same time, perhaps it is because she's even trying to convince herself that things were on track.
The challenge, he suggests, is that some ambitions may become harder to pursue depending on the circumstances. When two people bring different priorities into the same marriage, those differences may not appear immediately. The Netflix deal arrives. Public interest remains strong. New photos get shared. From the outside, everything can seem perfectly steady. But if major opportunities begin slowing down, the picture can start looking very different. According to Bower's analysis, the couple could find themselves feeling pulled in different directions. Harry appears drawn toward the identity and connection that Britain represents, while other priorities may point somewhere else entirely.
When he was writing Spare, that's when they were aligned in purpose. They were both trying to put stain on the royal family. They all Harry and Meghan didn't want to show them any grace. They wanted to completely rag on their life in the UK. But now Harry has turned over, and now he, I believe, is feeling very regretful. And now they're no longer aligned in purpose, and they will continue to clash. This is the beginning of many more arguments. And the question then becomes, how long can they sustain the relationship no longer aligned in purpose?
She appears focused on the opportunities California provides. The chance to launch projects, explore business ideas, and build a future on her own terms. And before anyone writes all of this off as headline-driven commentary, this is where the discussion becomes especially interesting. The reason these claims continue attracting attention isn't because of Bower alone, it's because other commentators have raised similar questions.
Can you describe Harry now compared to the Harry you knew? How would you characterize Harry in 2026?
I think he's a nasty, spiteful liar. Thinks only of himself, terrified of Meghan, and that he wants to get the royal family switched out so he can get switched in and give Meghan the best job ever. I think he wants her to be queen. I think I've told you that before. But with Harry, he's determined that everybody thinks that she is as amazing as he does, but he's got it all wrong.
Bower simply happens to be one of the most outspoken voices making the case. What makes this discussion harder to dismiss is that several royal observers who have followed the family for years have reached similar conclusions through completely different lines of analysis. In fact, some of them were raising these questions long before many of today's debates even began. That's the detail that really stands out. Not that one person made a prediction, but that multiple experienced commentators are now pointing toward the same possibility. So if Harry genuinely wants a stronger connection to Britain, why not simply make the move?
she made some very, very poor strategic errors, thinking she could profit from the title without any consequence, without paying the dues. And of course, in the end, I have no doubt there'll come a day when they both lose their titles, and their children too, because they will just be forced to go too far for their own survival, and at that moment, the same will happen to them as what's happened to Prince Andrew.
According to various commentators and biographers, the answer may be far more complicated than it appears. Their view is that the biggest challenge isn't logistics, security, or public opinion. Instead, they argue that Meghan has little interest in returning to Britain on a permanent basis. Royal biographer Angela Levin has discussed this idea in her own commentary.
That's the truth. It's always been nothing. Meghan doesn't want to see people who she either no longer finds useful or people she thinks are not going to go along with the grift anymore. And the royals saw right through her most of the time. And once she could get out, she doesn't want to face them. She's a coward in many ways. She doesn't want to have people, especially when she's interacting with Harry, people who know the real Harry, the Harry before Meghan, and her seeing them interact. Like, she wants this control and she wants to always be the victim. And so she has, I think, in many ways concocted this whole, again, crazy scenario where they're under constant threat so that she has this convenient out to actually see the people that she should.
Her interpretation is that Harry and Meghan may still want some form of connection to royal life, but only under conditions that fit their vision. As Levin put it, they would prefer roles they can help shape and influence, rather than traditional positions defined entirely by the institution. That single point may help explain why the situation appears stuck in place. The monarchy has historically operated through a highly structured system.
I've never seen somebody try so hard to prove that they're not the most unpopular person in the world.
Someone who fled England because she needed her privacy.
Yeah.
Never let us forget that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, it's absolutely astonishing. And then, of course, the publication of all her very top secret wedding photographs.
Oh, yeah.
To mark the 8th anniversary. That as well, absolutely another invasion of her privacy. I mean, she is literally digging and digging and digging, looking for something to get attention, and probably can't understand why there isn't a huge wave of adoration for her. She's actually puzzled why people don't love her, and that makes it even more interesting.
Responsibilities are assigned, expectations are established, and individuals are generally expected to work within that framework. It isn't typically a setting where people create their own version of the role. According to reports and accounts discussed over the years, Meghan associates her time in Britain with one of the most challenging periods of her adult life. That creates a sharp contrast. One partner may see Britain as a place tied to family, identity, and purpose. The other may connect it with difficult memories and experiences she'd rather move beyond. Think back to their public appearances earlier this year.
On one hand, a group of people who are absolutely convinced that King Charles is working behind the scenes via this new Deputy Private Secretary, Theo Rycroft, to try and bring Harry and even Meghan Markle back into the royal fold. The view, Angela, is that they are politically aligned, that King Charles III wants his legacy to be about union, not to be about a divide.
During official engagements and overseas trips, they appeared united, smiling for the cameras and presenting a strong image of partnership. From the outside, everything looked polished and carefully coordinated, and by most accounts, they are still capable of doing exactly that when public events call for it. But those appearances only last a short time. What commentators like Levin and Bauer focus on is what happens after the events end, the cameras leave, and everyday life returns.
Buckingham Palace plot to reunite Prince Harry and Prince William is going to fail. This story has really divided the royal community.
That's where they believe deeper differences in priorities may become more visible. Levin has also discussed reports suggesting Harry may be interested in a more active connection to royal life. It's important to approach that topic carefully and avoid unnecessary speculation. So let's focus on what has been publicly reported. According to these accounts, Harry has been looking for a path toward greater involvement.
The feeling generally in Britain is the marriage isn't going to last. Harry will, I'm afraid, still remain with you because his children are there. She kind of got him away from his friends and his relations into another country, and she could control him then, but he was kind of stuck with her.
While reports suggest the response from the institution has remained largely unchanged. Here's how many commentators describe the situation. A marriage can withstand disagreements. Couples navigate different goals all the time. But things can become more difficult when two people appear to envision very different futures in very different places. It's not easy to find a middle ground when those destinations are separated by an ocean.
And I think that seems to be the feeling here with Harry. He wants to build some bridges. I think his father is keen to reunite with him to see his grandchildren. William clearly is against it. The king is caught between the two brothers, and whatever he does, he's going to upset one of them. And it's a bit of a mess.
Eventually, someone may have to adjust their expectations, and based on the commentary and reporting so far, neither side appears ready to make that move. Now, here's where the story takes another interesting turn, because the conversation shifts away from what's happening today and toward claims that some commentators say were being discussed years ago. Long before the current wave of speculation, biographer Andrew Loney spoke about reported discussions that allegedly took place before Harry and Meghan's wedding. According to Loney, some individuals within royal circles had concerns about the relationship from the very beginning. His claim was that private doubts existed about whether the marriage would work in the long run, and that some believed serious challenges could eventually emerge. Of course, there are two ways to view that.
But it's interesting that when there have been occasions where the king could have met Harry, and not least in his recent visit to the States, that didn't happen. And I think there's always a suspicion that Harry will leak any encounter they have, and the story will be sold to the newspapers. So it is a bit of a mess. No one wants a dysfunctional family like that, but I'm afraid that is the story of the royal family. They can't seem to get on with each other.
One argument is that it's easy to make bold claims after difficulties become public. The other is that certain observers may have spotted potential issues years before most people noticed them. Whatever conclusion you reach, it's difficult to ignore when someone points to an earlier prediction and later argues that events seem to support it from their perspective. This is also where many people begin questioning the public narrative that has surrounded the couple for years. Whenever reports or rumors about possible difficulties surfaced, the response often followed a familiar pattern. The public repeatedly heard that they were stronger than ever, that they remained united. Representatives have consistently pushed back against claims that the marriage faces serious problems.
All those things are kind of, again, undermined because of attention being focused on people like Harry and Andrew, when, there is so much good that they can do, but which gets ignored. So my experience is, talking to people, they're not anti-monarchy, but they are anti the monarchy abusing its status in order to make money for itself.
And herself has publicly spoken about her confidence in the relationship's future. And to be fair, nobody outside the marriage truly knows what happens in private. But there can sometimes be a gap between public statements and the way outside observers interpret public actions. In recent months, commentators have pointed to several developments that they believe raise new questions. They note that the couple marked 8 years of marriage with a video tribute rather than a major public appearance together. They also point to Meghan continuing to focus on her own projects, while Harry has continued speaking about Britain and his connections there. By most accounts, nobody is describing a dramatic breakdown. In fact, many observers see something far more complicated. Rather than open conflict, they describe two people who may still care deeply about one another while being pulled toward different ideas about the future. It's not necessarily a story of conflict, it's a story of growing distance. According to this interpretation, Harry and Meghan appear to be standing on opposite sides of an important crossroads, with neither wanting to let go of what matters most to them. So where could a situation like that eventually lead?
What happened with the Duke of Windsor is he did every so often come back and see his family, as long as his wife didn't come with him, and that we're going to see more of that. We have a sign that Harry may be able to come back and have security paid for by the taxpayer here, which will make him feel safe.
The answer may arrive sooner than many people expect, because another important moment is already on the horizon. Harry is expected to return to Britain for an upcoming Invictus Games related event, a project closely associated with him and one that has earned praise from supporters and critics alike. And when that visit takes place, many observers will be watching carefully to see whether it offers any new clues about where this story may be heading next. And that's where the biggest question of all comes into focus. It's not whether Harry will attend the event. By most expectations, he will. The real question is much simpler and far more revealing. Who, if anyone, will be standing beside him when the cameras start rolling? Tom Bower has been very clear about his position on this issue. When asked whether Harry could return in some form of part-time royal role, his answer was direct. He doesn't see that as a likely outcome.
told the couple are at a standoff over their summer. As well as the Balmoral trip, the plan had been for Meghan to join her husband in the UK in July for a one-year countdown event to the 2027 Invictus Games taking place in Birmingham. However, our source says Meghan has now told Harry to go without her. They add Meghan's bust-up with Harry was a big one, and she's digging her heels in. She's told Harry to go to the UK without her, as there was no way she would be joining. She doesn't want to put herself or the kids through the drama.
And if the commentators and biographers discussing this situation are even partly correct, the image many people expect to see this summer could carry more meaning than anyone expected. Harry back in a country he has often spoken warmly about. Harry focused on the project most closely linked to his public identity. Harry doing something that clearly matters to him, but possibly doing it without Meghan at his side. Of course, nobody knows what will happen until the event actually takes place, but many commentators believe Meghan's presence or absence could become one of the biggest talking points surrounding the entire occasion. Here's what many observers will be watching closely. If Meghan chooses not to attend, some will argue that it adds support to the theories commentators like Bauer and Angela Levin have been discussing. If she does attend, others will say it challenges those assumptions and suggests the situation may be more complex than critics believe.
Then you've got the fact that the veterans in Invictus, because it's a special event for injured veterans, military people, served in the army, served in the navy, served in the Air Force, who have either mental health problems or indeed they've lost limbs, other issues, and they compete at the top level of competition. The problem you've got is those veterans are not happy because Invictus should be about them and their achievements, but it's about Harry and Meghan. So Invictus is a disaster.
Reports have also mentioned discussions surrounding summer plans and possible UK visits connected to Invictus-related activities. According to those reports, Meghan was at one stage expected to join Harry for events linked to the countdown toward the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham. Whether those reports turn out to be accurate or not, July could become a significant moment because that's when speculation finally meets reality. And don't expect all the answers ahead of time. Public appearances like these are often managed carefully, plans can change, announcements can be delayed, statements can be prepared and released at carefully chosen moments. But there's one thing that's much harder to control than a public statement: a live public appearance. When the day arrives, everyone will see who is there and who isn't. Cameras will capture every moment. Photos will spread across news outlets and social media within hours, and people everywhere will be looking at the same images and drawing their own conclusions. That's why events like this attract so much attention. Rumors can be denied, headlines can be disputed, statements can be issued. Social media can present a carefully managed picture. But when a major event unfolds in public, people naturally focus on what they can see for themselves. So let's return to the word that has followed this entire discussion: untenable.
And I don't think very long, because you have to look at the fact that Harry is losing out when it comes to his children.
When Tom Bauer uses that word, he is not necessarily predicting the end of the marriage. And many of the commentators discussing this story are not making that claim either. Publicly, representatives have rejected suggestions of serious problems. Meghan has continued speaking positively about her marriage, and it's entirely possible that the couple could continue proving doubters wrong for many years to come. That possibility absolutely remains on the table. But if you remove the dramatic headlines, online arguments, and constant speculation, what you're left with is a much simpler discussion. Several well-known royal commentators have looked at the same situation and reached broadly similar conclusions. Bauer describes what he calls an unfortunate crossroads. Angela Levin has argued that Harry and Meghan wanted a level of flexibility and influence that was unlikely to fit comfortably within the traditional royal system. Andrew Lowney has also claimed that concerns were being discussed long before the wedding took place. The common thread running through all of those observations isn't necessarily conflict. It's different priorities.
I believe is very hurtful to Harry. He is starting to see now that he is missing out and his children are missing out, and that Meghan is controlling everything. And I feel, is feeling very regretful. He is looking at Meghan as someone that is controlling his life completely, despite how he feels. So it's just the beginning for him. It's going to get so much more worse.
On one side, there's Britain, family connections, royal ties, and the identity Harry grew up with. On the other, there's California, professional opportunities, independence, and the life Meghan has established there. Add financial pressures, major career choices, and two different ideas about the future. And it's easy to see why commentators keep describing the situation as a crossroads. That's the challenge these observers keep pointing to. Not a villain, not a dramatic showdown, just two people who may be focused on different goals as they navigate the next stage of their lives and try to make those goals work together. And now attention turns to July. When that event arrives, what do you think we'll see? Will Meghan be standing beside Harry, quieting some of these questions? Or will her absence trigger an entirely new wave of discussion and speculation? Got something to say about this? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get into it. If this breakdown made you see things differently, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Tap that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it.